Good morning, everyone. This is Simon from TechSoup. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes so that other people can join the call. We understand for a lot of people, it's the first time they're joining a Citrix GoToWebinar and they may need to download the application. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes before we get started. Thank you.
Mic test, mic test, test mic, test mic. By the way, this is Judd speaking. Hello, everyone. We'll be beginning in a few minutes. So sit back, relax, and we'll begin in approximately 2 minutes. And again, thank you for joining. Okay, hello. Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Again, this is Judd speaking. Thank you again for joining the Tools and Tips when Working from Home webinar. This is Judd speaking, and I'm joined with a couple of my colleagues, Simon and Ellen. We'll now be formally beginning. Now, but before everything, in a second, a few housekeeping. So just a few things to take note of throughout the webinar. First and foremost, all attendees will be in mute. So for any questions, just type in the chat box. We will be answering all of these at the very end. So let us go through the deck first. And about 20-30 minutes in, we'll be answering everything all together. Secondly, recordings and the presentation will be provided after the deck. So if you have issues accessing the webinar, or if you had net problems, or if you have colleagues who weren't able to join, don't worry. We will be sending everything over email after a day or so. So that will be provided. Third, there are no silly questions. I know sometimes it can get intimidating to ask questions. Don't worry, this is an open webinar, very informal as well. If you have questions, whatever it is, there are no silly questions. Just ask away, all right? And last but not the least, please bear with us because of the quarantine. And true to this topic of this webinar, we're all actually hosting this webinar from our homes. So right now, I'm actually in my bedroom. So yeah, bear with us if there are any background noise. I am calling out my neighbor's dog. He kind of gets crazy every now and then. But this is also a good preview of what your meetings will be like, as this will be, I think this is going to be the new norm for a little bit. So yeah. Okay, 2, formally begin, let's just get to know some of the home working gurus for today. So Ellen?
All right. Okay. Hello, guys. Thank you for attending this meeting. And just like Jed, you may hear some roosters crowing on the background. So yeah, that's that's what happens when you're working from home. But yeah, I'm Ellen, and I've been working for TechSoup for about 8 months already. And my expertise is about Office 365 with almost 4 years of experience already. And I've been doing technical support assistance, email migration, and even just assisting with Office 365 setup. And currently, with TechSoup, I manage Office 365 cloud consultation, and I'm working on some of the services that we will be launching soon. And so the main reason of me being present here is on this webinar is to support Jed and Simon to address if you have any questions in regards to cloud products or specifically Office 365. All right. Yep. So that's about it.
Cool. Thanks, Ellen. So another speaker is myself. I think some of you may have already heard of me or emailed me. So I'm Jed. I essentially operate on the program manager for TechSoup. I primarily manage operations. That includes marketing, customer service, and anything to do with the donations and discounts program. That's me. Personally, I have been working remotely for about 7 years now. 5 of those years I've been working from home. Hence, this topic, I think it's something that's very well and dear to us, myself and Simon specifically. So we'd like to just share some quick tips on what helped us go through those 5 or so 7 years. So Simon?
Thanks, Jed. I'm Simon G. I'm the Regional Director for TechSoup. Essentially what that means is I have to ensure that TechSoup's core programs are operating effectively across the 43 countries and territories. That includes some operations that we have ourselves internally, such as the operations that Jed and Ellen manage, but also working with our NGO partners who support the programs in key markets, and also communicating a lot to our corporate partners as well. Only yesterday we were talking to Microsoft about some of the efforts they want to do around what is, an interesting time at the very least. It's very challenging for a lot of us. Jed and Ellen have said we are remote workers, but the way it is now, it is a little bit more distracting than normal. We do want to share with you tips and tricks that we've learned over the years that just make us more effective as a team. And there may even be some positives about how working remotely can actually be more efficient. Jody, able to move on to the next slide? So this is what we're looking to cover today. Tips on managing yourself in a remote environment, tips on managing a team, but we don't want to spend too much time on this. We are aware that your emails, your social media threads are probably being inundated with how-to guides on how to work effectively from home and the types of tools you can use. So we don't want to go into too much detail. It's probably more about our own personal experience, but we'll also share with you some links to articles and other webinars that specifically go into the nitty-gritty of working from home, which we may not cover today. And then lastly, we want to really hone in on solutions that are available through TechSoup and our technology partners that can help you work effectively remotely and from home. So before we begin, what do we mean by working from home or telecommuting or working remotely? Look, it's already much the same thing. As I said, we've been doing it as a team for 6 years, but it can mean, also working from home, working from a cafe, even from a car or a bus. Only the other day, I was actually dropping off some groceries for for my grandparents, and I did a call in the car while I was going up there. So some of the tools that we're talking about today, you'll find that they're not only good for remote work, but they're also, almost all of them are mobile friendly as well. But of course, because of COVID-19, all of us are now, well, at least a lot of us are either already working from home or immediately planning for that scenario to happen. It's all come to a head. We're seeing a real uptick in inquiries from charities and NGOs that engage with TechSoup in regards to remote working tools. And that is primarily the reason why we put on this webinar today. So is working from home really effective? how can my team be more productive in this unique setup? Look, I actually think that working from home can actually be more productive, can be more effective. I'll give you an example. We have our head offices in San Francisco, and so every couple of weeks there's an all-staff meeting. So everyone physically goes into one big room, and we do a physical staff meeting. Now there could be 50 to 100 people at the staff meeting, and there are some problems with these physical meetings, and that people can't hear each other. Now those meetings have now been converted to pure online meetings, and some staff are reporting that they're actually getting more out of the staff meeting because they can clearly hear the presenters, they can clearly see the presentation slides. So, there can be some positive learnings out of this experience when the dust settles, when everything, when we are able to go back to our normal working environments, that there might be some things that we learn throughout this process that can be implemented ongoing. I know it's hard to think about positives at this stage, but yeah. Moving on.
Okay.
General,
Awesome. So guys, I think just to formally begin, I'll just want to share some few tips and tricks I've learned throughout the years. Again, I've been working from my own home for the past 5 of 7 years I've been with TechSoup. And these are some of the 4 key things I've been following at a daily basis, and it's helped me a lot, to be honest. First and foremost, you want to think about your work area. So ideally, it's somewhere with some sunlight. That usually helps me. Anything that gets me to interact with nature also actually helps me relax when things get stressful. Maybe you hear birds there, maybe you have a bit of sunlight, maybe you have a view of some trees or a garden. That's perfect, that's nice. I know that's a little tricky for some. This might not be available for some. Don't worry, as long as you have a quiet space within range of within range of your Wi-Fi router, and also perfect if you have an Ethernet cable, that's way better. Those are the key main things. And another thing you want to consider with your area is that hopefully less background noise. But again, if that's not available for everyone, there's always the option of getting noise canceling headphones to help you focus. The second important thing I'd like to share is just sticking to a routine, to be honest. One thing about working from home is that there is a big intersect between your personal and professional lives. Sometimes that leads to overworking, sometimes that leads to underworking. What helps me keep kind of like these things balanced is really I stick to a normal routine as if I'm going to an office. I stick to an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 work schedule. Anything beyond that is I dedicate to my personal life. Another thing I usually do is I don't start the moment I wake up. Now, give some time for yourself. Give that time for yourself to relax, focus for what you need to do throughout the day. And to be honest, that's a good way to clear your mind for whatever comes your day. Another thing that helps me is checklists. Again, working from home, there's a possibility that you underwork yourself or you overwork yourself. And with the fear of underworking or being underproductive, what's helped me a lot is actually making a checklist. Maybe it's for the day, the week, the month, whatever it is I need to achieve, both at a professional level and in terms of upskilling myself. A good example is I want to learn about this for the next quarter. Maybe I want to learn more about business analytics, or maybe I want to learn some new tips and tricks on social media to help me with marketing. It doesn't necessarily have to be things that concern just your daily work. It can be about really upskilling yourself so you have a sense of progression as well. And checklists are the way to go. That's very easy. It's even a low-tech solution, to be honest. You don't need a fancy solution for this. I personally use a pen and paper, and I also have like those sticky notes in my desktop. So those are very helpful. The last tip I'd like to share is just communicate. One of the major flaws, personally speaking, one of the major worries for me is just feeling that sense of being alone, being isolated, because you're working from home, and chances are you're going to lose track of time, and suddenly you'll notice you've been working alone, stranded in your room for the next 8 hours. And that kind of like, that's sometimes mentally that's harsh sometimes, but one way to combat it is really just talk to your colleagues, have a quick have a quick side chat, have a quick chat about work. Be casual, just again, communicate, talk to your team, talk to your manager, always keep them updated. And that also helps with fighting that sense of isolation. So again, these are just 4 key quick tips I'd like to share. Hopefully you can apply them as well. And moving from here, we'd like to talk about managing your team. And for this, I'm going to pass it back on to Simon.
Thanks, Jed. So the first one we've got here is check-in. It's about creating proper lines of communication. And for us, we utilize messaging tools a lot. In particular, we use something called Slack. We'll go into a little bit more detail about that. There's lots of different solutions out there, Slack, Teams. There's probably 100 other tools that provide these sorts of functionalities. But we utilize that on a daily basis to keep in touch. We have something called channels or group chats, and not all of them are purely work related. They can be, you can have a chat area just called random, where you're sharing articles about things, or a humorous channel where you send humorous things. We've got to remember now that we don't have the tea breaks in the office, we don't have the lunch breaks in the office, so we need to replace that. Typically when you go out for lunch, you talk about all sorts of things as a team. We need to replace that with something else, and utilizing these messaging tools is how we have found to do it. So yeah, it's key though. You can have professional group chats, but I think it's also important to have informal group chats as part of your messaging solution. My other tip here is, I understand a lot of, just from experience, a lot of people, even within their organization, are using tools like WhatsApp as their primary, sort of messaging tool. I highly recommend, from an organizational perspective, that you largely get off WhatsApp, especially for organizational communications. Part of that reasoning is these other messaging tools such as Slack and Microsoft Teams, they have a higher level of functionality, which we'll explain later, which have advantages for your organization. And secondly, it's about creating that professional, personal break. People are using WhatsApp, to connect with their family and friends. And if you're asking them to also use WhatsApp for a professional communications, it's you're creating fuzzy lines in regards to those communications. Because if you're asking them to go on WhatsApp to talk about professional organizational work, they're also then going to get the same alerts from their family and friends. Creating that separation in regards to those messaging tools, I think, is really important. So it could be WhatsApp, it could be WeChat, Line, whatever that may be. I think you should try and get your staff to commit to using an organizational chat/messaging tool. Of course, much like you do in a physical workplace, arrange those regular check-ins. Stay in touch with your team, schedule a weekly meeting, especially with your direct reports or people you manage. Schedule your one-on-ones. And if you think about it, sometimes maybe you used to do your one-on-ones with staff and you go to a coffee shop or you'd have lunch together. Try and make them a little bit less informal if you can. Give it a more relaxed vibe. Sometimes teleconferences and video conferences can feel very formal because you're in front of a screen. Try and break it up a bit. Make a coffee while you're talking to them. Those types of things. The next one I've got here is share. So for us, we utilize shared calendars. And we put a lot of detail in those calendars. If I'm ducking out to do some grocery shopping, or if I'm ducking out to take my son's soccer training, which obviously is not happening at the moment, I would put that in my calendar. Now, I don't necessarily need to go into full detail about that, especially if it's personal in nature and I don't want other people knowing about that. But I still put that in my calendar and I block it out. And that enables everyone else in my team to know when I'm available and when I'm not. So committing to updating your calendar is really important when you're a remote worker. The other one is utilizing shared file storage. So, the likes of Google Drive or OneDrive, whatever, and committing to paperless systems because, paper is very much dead once you start working from home. Although I still write notes on pieces of paper, I almost every day I convert that into an electronic format. Thirdly, video. Obviously, we're going to switch to a lot of, we won't have many face-to-face meetings in the short term, so we're going to have to commit to teleconferences. Video is something I think is so important. I can't say this enough. Commit to video. A lot of people will find this hard initially, but as we know, the verbal communication is just a small part of the spectrum. Body language is a really big component of how we communicate with each other, the smiles, the sadness, all the things in between. It's really important that we commit to video to enable really good communication ongoing. And I'm a little bit of what I would call a video police person within my organization. I call it out to everyone, whether it be managers, whether it be my team members. If they're not sharing videos, I will call it out. And Jed and Ellen, I think you can attest to that.
Absolutely.
That is true.
Absolutely.
Simon has seen me in my worst hair days, so there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't harp on this enough. You know, and then it takes a lot initially, because you know, for a lot of people it's easy not to share their video, because obviously now we don't have to go through the normal morning routine of whether it's putting on a suit or putting on makeup or doing our hair. All of a sudden we don't necessarily need to do that, but yeah, we need to commit to video. I do hear excuses, oh, sorry, I don't have bandwidth. Well, a lot of the new video conferencing tools are a lot better at throttling bandwidth, and so yeah, you might find it hard for the first couple of weeks, but you just got to keep at it. And I think once you do keep at it and commit to video as a team, you'll start to see the value of that. And a couple of the scenarios, both sad and happy. If you're sharing positive stories on your team calls and people aren't sharing videos, you're not seeing the smiles. On the inverse of that, when people are a bit down, you're having a face-to-face, physical meeting, you can read that body language and you get a sense for how maybe a team member is actually going, and maybe you then want to have a chat to them and see how you can support them. Well, if that staff member now is not showing their video, all of a sudden you can't react to that as a manager. So yeah, I'll say it again, I can't harp enough, commit to video as much as you can. And become a video police person within your organization. Last one here is set expectations, especially around availability, work objectives, and the like. So if you have to duck out for an emergency, once again, tell your team on the group chat and commit to that. Some little bonus ones I just want to throw in here. Try and do your best for missing the water cooler talk or the tea room talk. So once again, we talked about having these channels and these messaging groups that aren't just purely about professional work. Try and commit to that. Be mindful and inclusive. It's happening a lot. We're having kids interrupt our meetings from time to time. I personally find that's a great personal touch. I'm actually enjoying that component, the human touch of families being involved in the workplace at time to time. But that can be embarrassing for some of your team. They feel embarrassed that it doesn't seem professional. So just be mindful and inclusive of that, and maybe after the call's finished, just reach out to them and say, look, it's completely fine. We're under difficult times. Even say how you actually liked it. So yeah, be mindful and inclusive. You can mix up your meetings a bit. Do some social meetings. I heard today back in San Francisco they had a happy hour meeting, and everyone had to wear a different hat. So just mixing it up. And then they did all of that through a video teleconference. Welfare check-ins. You may have one-on-ones with your direct reports. Just be careful not to just talk, once again, don't just talk about work. Just see how they're going in general. Another thing you can do from time to time, mix up your video locations. You may have a dedicated space that you do your team, especially your team calls, or especially calls with third parties. But if you're having a one-on-one call, maybe if you have the opportunity, go out on the balcony or even take the call on the sofa. It's important to just mix it up and make everyone feel a bit more comfortable about the way in which we're working. And the last one is encourage healthy habits where you can. Whether that's eating, exercising, a lot of that has become obviously a lot more difficult recently. But yeah, encourage healthy habits where you can. All right, so yeah, this is really closing this component of the tips and tricks. Once again, as we said, there's so many articles out there. We're being bombarded, at least my emails are being bombarded with another article about this topic every other day, and same on social media. Obviously, I'm going to share the link to this presentation, but we've also got here a couple of presentations that, how-to guides or presentations or webinars. If you want to go a little bit deeper, these are ones that we've actually read ourselves, so they're somewhat curated. So after we send the the deck after this meeting. Feel free to go through those links. So yeah, tech stack, a bit of a geeky term, but it's essentially the package of solutions that we utilize at TechSoup to do a remote work. Much like you need tires and fuel and bits and pieces to run a car, this is kind of the bits and pieces we need to run a remote team. So I'll hand it back over to you, Jed.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Simon. So just walking you through, so these are actually the everyday solutions we use. These have enabled us to work effectively as a team, regardless of whether we're working remotely or we're working together in a single physical space. So again, Simon alluded earlier to Slack. So Slack is a core component in our communication system. Simply speaking, Slack is just a messaging app, really. But the beauty of Slack is, number one, it allows you to segregate your chats into certain channels. So these channels are really just a way to imagine folders to files. So a folder is a channel, really. And you can really dedicate channels to specific, say, projects, specific topics, specific groups. A good example is, again, like Simon mentioned earlier, within our team, we have a Slack channel for just casual stuff where we share funny memes or funny GIFs or articles. Another channel is maybe for a specific project. Say we're working on a specific project in a certain country, there may be a specific channel for that. Another way to manage channels is that, again, we work with a lot of different partners. So we have another channel dedicated for each partner. So this way we can easily organize our communications. If we need to backtrack on something, it's easy and it's manageable. Another awesome thing about Slack is that it is highly integrated with certain core solutions as well. And two of those solutions is actually Zoom and Google. A quick glimpse into that is that if I need to talk to Simon, Simon or Ellen, if I need to do a video chat, there's a button in Slack where I just need to press that and it automatically prompts Zoom to create a video meeting for everyone. On the other hand, if I'm sharing files with them as I'm working with them, if I share a Google Drive link and say I forgot to set the permissions, Slack is actually going to remind me, okay, hey, they can't actually access that. Here's our options, and it's going to offer you a drop-down selection of should I allow them to edit, should I just allow them to view. These are just really little things, but at the end of the day, these are really helpful and kind of like making your work experience more efficient, particularly when you're working remotely. Now, moving from there, Zoom is also a core component.
Actually,
Oh, yeah, sorry,
sorry.
go ahead, guys.
Yeah, just to add about Slack, my most favorite feature of Slack is that you'll have an option to schedule your DND mode, or what we call do not disturb mode. So I think this is the best feature, especially for the ones who don't know when to turn off when working at home. So that's my most favorite part there.
I was about to say the same thing, so move on, Jed.
Okay, cool. Again, another core component here is Zoom. Again, I think as you can see, a lot of what makes this efficient and effective is actually communications tool. And I'm just kind of driving home the point. As we were planning this, key to remote working is really just communications, and solutions we're using as actual just focused on that. Zoom is essentially an audio video conferencing app. This is what we use to host our online meetings. And one awesome thing about Zoom is, number one, it is very lightweight. I can have very low bandwidth, but it's still, it's still going to enable me to have clear audio and even a passable video at that case. Another awesome thing about this is that if, say, I need to talk to somebody outside my organization, they don't need to have a Zoom account to actually join a meeting. They can actually just join that meeting through their browser or through a free mobile app. So guys, would you like to add something about Zoom?
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, that invite feature, once you're actually already in a call with someone and you decide, I'd actually like Ellen to join the call. It's really easy to just create a link and send that link back into the chat box, and then that person can easily join the call. It's also, very adaptive. A lot of the newer video conferencing apps are like that. You may remember 5 years ago is that, if one person had a bad connection, the call wouldn't work, or if one person shared their video, it would use too much bandwidth. Whereas these new teleconferencing tools such as Zoom are a lot more adaptive in how they throttle around. So even if one person may have a temporary bandwidth issue, it doesn't affect the others on the call. And so that's a really important point. And the last one is it has calendar integrations. Just say if you're an Outlook user, you can schedule a call in Zoom and it'll automatically set up a calendar entry, and then you can just send the invite via traditional email.
Actually, I forgot a couple of things worth mentioning about Zoom. Couple of minor things. One is it also enables you to remotely manage somebody else's desktop. So while that sounds creepy, I understand it's actually very helpful if you're offering remote tech assistance, for example. Say one of our colleagues is having an issue with an app. Say we could just, okay, could you grant me access and I'll manage your desktop for you and we'll figure it out. So that's actually been very helpful in cases like that. And another
that's a really good point, Jed, because especially for a lot of organizations, a lot of us have actually been forced almost overnight to commit to working from home. And so we have various levels of staff in regards to their technical knowledge or abilities. So you probably have, might have a team of 10 and you've got 2 people that are really, got their head around all this technology really quickly. Well, they could potentially lend a hand to other members of your team that are maybe struggling a little bit. So they could actually remote into their computer and set up some of these tools.
And just another trivial thing, there's actually a function in Zoom where you can change your background. I understand that sometimes one of the key factors why you don't want to share your video is that you're a little embarrassed about your background. Take, for example, for me, if I share my video now, you're going to see a very not pretty view of my bedroom. So if you don't want to share that, it actually has a feature of it's going to replace your background with a picture that you've chosen. Maybe you're in a beach, maybe you're in a different office. So these are just little things, really. So moving forward from Zoom, I'm just going to bundle these 2 things up really quick. So Google and Office 365, these are what I call the motherlode of cloud productivity solutions. So as you may already know, Google in Office 365 offers you essentially everything from email, online collaboration solutions such as Google Docs or Office Online, your calendar, storages, and so on. And also communications apps as well, such as Hangouts and Teams. So from our team, we primarily use Google and Office 365, both for our emails and also essentially for storage. So these have been very helpful for us. So why use both, actually? You might be asking that question. We primarily use Google, but we also use Office 365 as an alternative in cases where there are certain countries where Google isn't available. A good example is with our partner in China, they don't have access to Google. So if we're having a meeting and we're trying to record notes, they're not going to be able to see that. So as an alternative is that we just use our Office 365 account for that. But I'm not going to go too much into detail here. So these are essentially the 4 key apps. But guys, would you want to add something about Google and Office 365 as well?
No, that's about it. I think we're going to go into a little bit more detail next. So.
Yep. So again, these are awesome. So again, these are just the 4 essential apps that has helped us collaborate and communicate really effectively remotely. And I've also added here some links to generally help you get set up. Maybe it's a link to a consultation that we're offering, or just some very helpful articles on how to set up your Zoom, Slack, or Google account. So moving from here, I understand the bigger question is, how are you going to access these solutions? So we'll just go through this one by one real quick. So for Slack, it's very easy. You just need to sign up for, nonprofits can access it entirely for free, as long as you have 250 users or less. And all you need to do is you need to sign up through that link there. You're going to be asked to create your Slack account, or if you don't have one yet, just create one. Oh, sorry, if you have one already, you just need to sign in. And then Slack will take care of the rest. They will convert that to a free nonprofit account. The question is, what if you have more than 250 users? You can, Slack is still offering nonprofit support for that, but rather than offering it for free, it will be at an 85% discount per user per month. And as per checking yesterday, I think the full monthly rate for that is $15 per user per month. So it's going to be 85% off if you have more than 250 users. For Zoom, we do have in-house offers through the TechSoup catalog. It's generally a 50% discount on either Pro or Business plan. So we've received a lot of inquiries for this before. So let me just kind of like clear that out a bit. I understand that it can be a bit confusing. So for Zoom, you generally need to settle 2 fees if you're accessing it through TechSoup. One is an admin fee of $65 if you're asking for Pro, or $190 US if you're asking for Business. What does that admin fee provide you? it essentially just provides you with an access to a 50% discount at a per host level. So it doesn't include the host subscription fees yet. But should you proceed from there, all of your hosts will be provided at a 50% off discount. So if you're choosing Pro, just recapping this real quick, if you want to go for Pro, it's $65 admin fee for TechSoup plus, let's round this up, $75 per host per year with a minimum of 2 hosts up to a maximum of 9 hosts. That's for Pro. So you're essentially selling those 2 fees. For business, it's $190 admin fee paid to TechSoup plus $100 per host per year. Again, I'm rounding up, and there's a minimum of 10 hosts up to 49. So the discounted subscription fee these will be paid directly to Zoom, and you will be provided with the necessary information and instructions to help you do that after you pay for the order. That will arrive 1 to 2 working days via email. So moving forward, for Google, it's a slightly easier process. All you need to do is get your TechSoup validation token and just go to the sign up page right there. It's linked right there. If you need help with finding your token, there's also a link here. Just click those, and that will give you a tutorial video on where and how to find your validation token. A quick note, validation tokens are only provided to qualified organizations, and these expire from time to time. If your validation did expire, it does not affect your access to Google should you have qualified for it before. It's only used when qualifying for it during the application process. So if it expired after you qualified for Google, don't worry about it. It's not going to affect your access to the donation. Moving forward, for Office 365, we do offer access to discounted and free nonprofit subscriptions. As an additional support to that, Ellen is actually with us today. She manages the consultation and setup service. So you can do a free consultation with her, and she's going to help you, number one, find the right solution, find the right subscription for you. Maybe you can sell for the free ones. That's very helpful. Or maybe you need the discounted rate. So the key with the solution is that it's helping you from the very beginning identify what the perfect subscription package is so that you can enable yourself to save money from the get-go. Because maybe all you need is just the free solutions, then great, perfect. Then you can stick with free ones. But again, yep. Go ahead, Simon.
I just want to say with all these offerings that you're seeing here, Slack, Zoom, Google, Office 365, TechSoup ourselves are playing a role in actually qualifying and qualifying your NGO or charity for these offerings. So if you encounter any problems whatsoever and actually getting these offers direct through Slack or Zoom, whatever it may be, please feel free to reach out to us. At the end of this webinar, we will have the key contact details if you require any support.
Yes. So again, please contact us. These are again within the TechSoup system essentially, so we can be able to help you access them. So moving forward from here, let's just go into detail into some of the larger solutions mentioned here. One of which is Google. So Google is more than just access to a full G Suite. It actually also provides you with a lot of access to key essential marketing solutions as well. So again, outside of the full G Suite, you also have a monthly AdWords credits worth $10,000 that can help you host your ads and help you mitigate the costs of hosting ads. So that's, and again, I'd like to reiterate, that's monthly, $10,000 monthly. They're offering you that much credit to help you host your ads. Secondly, if you need to use their Google Earth API, maybe you're running a map in your website or your app, they're also offering you 250 monthly Google Earth credits as well to help you use that and mitigate the cost. And lastly, it also provides you with YouTube Premium functions. So if you're into YouTube marketing, YouTube Premium essentially provides you with certain calls to action. This may be linked towards enabling you to go from a video to an external page for fundraising and so on. Again, it is very easy to qualify for Google. All you need to have is your validation token and proceed to sign up through the link there. Moving forward from there, just kind of like talking you through. So if Google provides you with a diversity in terms of productivity and marketing and visibility, Office 365 offers you with just pure integration. Again, since this is Microsoft, and since most of our computers are running on Microsoft software, Office 365 provides you with that ease in terms of integration. So naturally, again, you have the core essentials, your Office Online, which enables you to work collaboratively online, which is Word, PowerPoint, Excel online. Provides you with storages, both personal and team, which is your OneDrive personal storage and SharePoint team storage. Allows you to host your email and calendar, again, as mentioned earlier, allowing you to share your content, or sorry, share your calendar with your team. One thing we'll also be tackling more into detail later is their very underrated Teams app. It's essentially the counterpart to Zoom and Slack. We'll go into detail to that later. Again, another underrated app is OneNote. This is essentially a very versatile note-taking app. It's very helpful for me in taking notes during meetings, creating agendas, and so on. And lastly, it also integrates with core Microsoft apps as well that may not be built into Office 365. A good example is Power BI. If you have a need for data analytics, data visualization, Power BI enables you to do that. And with us mainly usually living in Excel in terms of data, this enables us to kind of like give our Excel kind of like a level up, from just standard static visualizations to something more dynamic, which Power BI hosts. Guys, would you like to add something about Office 365?
Not at this stage, but as we're now going through some of the more detailed tools and offerings, we just want to encourage anyone, if you have any questions, if you could please ask those questions in the chat box. We're not that far away from concluding our webinar, so we just want to make sure that if there are any questions that we're collating them now.
Awesome. Now going to another tool here that we mentioned, this again, there's something worth considering at the moment. So from our tech stack, you saw we had a staggered stack of 4 different unique apps. 2 of those are just primarily to host chats and video conferences. Now, Microsoft Teams is a relatively newer app, and it actually does the job of 2 of those tools, which is Slack and Zoom. Generally, Teams is an all-in-one messaging system. It allows you to, number one, host that kind of like organized chat system such as Slack, and it also helps you to run audio conferences and video conferences straight from that app itself. And naturally, since it's part of Office 365, it's highly integrated with some of its productivity apps as well, such as Office Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, meaning it enables you to work faster, share files faster, and also collaborate on files more effectively. So one quick tip, so because of the COVID-19 breakout, Teams is also being offered for free for individuals, meaning originally Teams is part of Office 365, but if you are, say, an individual who just needs to get through this tough time working remotely, Microsoft is actually enabling you to sign up entirely for free to get just Teams. So you're not getting Office 365 as a whole, but they're going to provide you with a Microsoft Teams app to help you do just this. Create chats, host video conferences, sync your OneDrive and SharePoint to it for easy collaboration. So you can get this entirely for free up to January 2021. And you can learn more about that in that link shared there. And we also have, as a team, if you want to learn or upskill yourself about how you're going to be effectively managing teams, we also do have a free course for nonprofits, specifically dedicated for nonprofits. You can access that free course in that link there as well.
And I just want to tell a story. So a personal story. My wife was forced to come, start working from home just over a week ago. She works in a team of about 15 people, and she works for the government, but even they weren't ready. They didn't have remote tools like this set to go. And so they became aware of Microsoft Teams. And I wouldn't call any of that group of 15 particularly tech savvy, but within a week, they've all been able to get on board with Microsoft Teams, set up their environment, set up channels. And every now and then when I go into the lounge room where my wife has been able to set up a temporary office, I see she's always on a Microsoft Teams call. So I think it really is a fantastic solution. Like we were talking before about TechSoup, or at least our team's tech stack. I consider the Microsoft Teams solution a really good solution. We are now seeing a little bit more demand from NGOs about this tool. So yesterday we were working with Microsoft to actually put together more content. We're actually looking to have a special webinar just on this particular solution in the coming weeks. So look out for that in your email.
Awesome. So just moving forward, hang on. There is a wealth of other apps solutions that can enable your team to work effectively remotely. So we've actually just created this quick table right here for you. I'm not going to go into detail to most of it because some of these are actually already familiar for you, but just going to highlight some of the unknown ones. So for one, Hangouts is essentially the Google alternative to Teams. If you're more into Google, that is available as well. It essentially does the same function as you can see here. And also just a quick note, those that are in the left are free, those on the right are for a bit of a fee or a discount. So another thing to note about Hangouts is that up to July of this year, Google is offering its premium functions entirely for free to help support teams working through COVID-19. So again, if you're running on Google, those premium features are already available for you. Some other things worth mentioning, DocuSign is another key tool that we've been using remotely. So it's essentially a paperless system. If we need to get agreements, purchase orders signed, this is essentially how we do it. It's a secure way of sending contracts, agreements, and so on easily. And also enables you to track if it's been signed, if it's open, things like that. Some other things at the very bottom, these may not be as familiar for you. Tintone is essentially a very versatile tool. It enables you to create customized apps. So it can enable you to create apps for databases, project management, and so on. So you can access that as well for a discount of $300 per year, up to 50 users. If you're hosting certain things with Amazon, we're also offering worth $2,000 worth of credits every year. You can also access that. And lastly, Racklet is essentially a donor database. So it essentially enables you to create a database of your donors, members, networks. It also has added functions to help you collect subscription fees if you need that, and also do outreach to them. So again, these are some key things you may want to look into as you move forward. I'm not going to go into detail, but again, all of the links you need to learn more about the offer are here, and we'll be sending this deck afterwards. Lastly, part of this is that you're being exposed, because of this transition from a traditional office setup to working alone remotely, you may need some time to upskill yourself, learn more about these solutions. And we've taken it to actually compile some of the learning libraries which these donors are already offering. So if you need to learn more about these solutions, you can access their training databases here. And also at the far bottom right there, you can see TechSoup courses, particularly on supporting nonprofits as they transition into a remote scenario with COVID-19, as well as our partner in Australia, Connecting Up. They've also offered a similar webinar. You can access the content there. And further, for TechSoup courses, please feel free to browse through that site, as that is a library full of discounted and free courses specifically tailored for nonprofits. You do not need to be a qualified TechSoup organization to access that. That is available for everyone.
And a little bit more on just on tech, the TechSoup courses. We have developed courses specifically for NGOs when it comes to engaging with technology. And some of the courses are free and very basic. It could be Excel 101 or an Excel advanced course. Now we are finding some staff, because of the switch from a physical to a remote environment, there's simply things they can't do at this point in time. So sometimes they might be twiddling their thumbs a little bit. This is an opportunity to upskill if your staff do have a little bit more spare time. So this is just an example of some of the types of educational courses they can take while they're in this situation.
Awesome. And the last bit here we'd like to share is that we've also been pilot testing a lot of remote assistance services. Again, during this time, you may need to get some help setting some of these services up, particularly the larger systems such as Office 365. And these are some of the services that you can actually access right now. Let's start off at the far left, free cloud consultation. If you need to learn more about Office 365 and what kind of subscription you need, how that can help you, please book a free consultation. Our team would be happy to talk to you about it. Moving from
Yes,
there,
and
again, yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
sorry, go ahead. Yep. So Jed has already introduced this cloud consultation earlier, but just to add, this is where we will discuss your licensing needs or requirements. You may already have an idea which Office 365 license you will need, but this is where we will discuss if your chosen Office 365 license is enough or how you could maximize your chosen license. And of course, this is where we will discuss on how you can get those licenses from TechSoup.
Yes, thanks, Ellen. And just a
Mhm.
quick caveat here, a lot of these are Microsoft centric at the moment, but we are exploring alternative services that maybe concerns Google or other donors in the future. So these are just to begin because these are the ones that are in demand, but we are exploring other solutions in the future as well. So moving from cloud consultation, maybe you wanted to set up Office 365. We can do that for you and we can do that remotely. So the full Office 365 setup support includes number one, helping you sign up and qualify for free or discounted nonprofit subscriptions of Office 365, setting up your tenant itself, redirecting your DNS if you already have your
Your custom
domain,
domain.
custom domain. Also, it even offers account conversion if you're coming from a commercial rate before and you want to jump to a nonprofit one, that is also included. And I think the most important aspect of this is that we will also provide some admin training for your tech staff to help them kind of like move forward and know how to manage your accounts. Maybe it's resetting passwords, creating really just the basics, setting up or deleting new old accounts, things like that. So it's setup assistance. It includes registration, account conversion if necessary, DNS redirect, up to even training, some basic admin training as well. Ellen, would you like to add
All right.
something on the setup support?
Actually, those are complete. So this is most beneficial if you have minimal knowledge about Office 365 and you'd like to be certain that the licenses or the users will be properly set up. And most especially if you don't have an IT resource within your organization, because if you may have your custom domain, but you don't know how to link it to Office 365. And since it includes DNS records management. So probably you'll be needing an assistance of an expertise.
Another service worth looking into is Office 2019 installation. We understand that Office on-premise, these are the on-premise solutions. They're not usually the easiest to download, install. VLSC is usually not the easiest to navigate, and we're
Yeah.
happy to resolve that for you. Once you purchase a license, just let us know and we'll manage the download and installation for you. And this goes from 1 to 10 computers, and as you can see, the packages there. Ellen, would you like to add something more on Office 2019 installation?
Yeah, so since this is a more kind of intimidating instructions on how you install, this is not a typical providing you a download link and then the instructions is just a straightforward. So if you think that the instructions kind of intimidating and kind of difficult to understand, then we're here to help. We will do the best for you. And also, it doesn't only mean that we only you can only purchase up to 10 computers. You can still purchase more than that, right? It's just the
Yep.
packages that you
Covers
can
up
choose.
to 10. Yeah, that's perfect. One thing I just noticed that wasn't here is email
Email
migration.
migration.
So we are actually offering email. It's currently at the pilot test at the moment, but that is coming soon, very, very soon, to be honest. So we are also offering email migration coming from your own personal systems or maybe Gmail or other systems to Office 365. So we're actually offering that. We will be offering that very, very soon. Some of you may have already received some content about this. We are pilot testing it at the moment. If you want to learn more about email migration, please contact us. Again, we'll be sharing the necessary contact details later to help you move forward. And one last thing to look forward to is managed service. So some of you, after you migrate to Office 365, you may not necessarily know how to continue managing it. Maybe you need ongoing support in resetting your password, creating new accounts, deleting old accounts, things like that. In the near future, we will be offering that. So this is essentially you handing over to daily grind work to us. Whenever standard admin requirements you need, you essentially can forget that through the managed service and let us do the work for you. So it's really us remotely helping you remotely manage your Office 365 instance. So guys, is there anything you'd like to add as well on the services slide?
Oh, I would just say here, Simon, that this is something we've been working at for probably, well, 6 to 9 months now. This really has nothing to do with the response to COVID, but we understand that some NGOs and charities do have some problems migrating to these more integrated suites, whether they be the Google Suite or the Office 365 stack. But I just want to make it important that we've highlighted a lot of tools today that are completely free, and I'm comfortable that something like Microsoft Teams, for example, that was something that will be able to assist your organization almost immediately.
Awesome. And just to get started, please book a free consultation with us. We'll talk to you about which solutions fit you the best and what services are appropriate for your organization. Now, the last bit here is we'd just like to share our contact details. Naturally, you already know customer service at TechSoup.Asia. That is the standard escalation point. But if you want to talk to us about specific topics, for example, Ellen, she's your go-to person for any cloud solution or any related services such as those covered in the previous slide. If you want to learn more about those, please contact her. Any general inquiries about TechSoup as a whole, its offers, eligibility, and so on, please contact me. Again, you can see our emails. And if none of us three are responding, please tell Simon. He'd be happy to call us out. So these are your standard escalation points. And I'd like to pause it here now because I think we're at the end of the slide and it's time for a bit of Q&A. Okay.
I'm a little bit worried that the Q&A chat function on this webinar is not working. I'd love if someone attending could actually ask a chat or at least send us a test.
Actually, I do have a bit here, so hang on.
Oh, so sorry, Jed, only you can see.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, right now a lot of the questions are about the recording and the slides. Yes, I'd like to confirm, give us 1 to 2 days after, and we'll be sending these through to you. So yeah, expect this over email. So
hopefully, Jed, we can even get the slides out quicker because I understand a lot of the content we've showed you today, it tells you to click on a link, which you haven't been able to do today. We will do our best to get that slide to you as soon as possible.
Yes, actually the slides are ready, so I can have that sent as early as later today. And the recording might take a bit of a while because I need to upload it still. So, but yep, slides can go out as soon as possible.
Cool.
Good question. So here's one thing that's interesting. So great endorsement. Okay, sorry. Here's a quick question. Is Slack same as Teams meeting?
I must say, from my perspective, I've only just started using Microsoft Teams in the last week. I do find the functionality between Slack and Teams very similar. I think Slack still has a few little bells and whistles, but they're certainly not features that are critical to the core functionality of having team chats and phone calls. That's just my perspective.
Alan, would you like to add something more to that?
That's right. So Microsoft Teams is a combination of audio conferencing and video conferencing, plus the instant messaging tool. While with Slack, while it's just an instant messaging tool, you can anyway integrate Zoom application. So functionality-wise, these are just almost the same or similar.
Cool.
You might then
here is Zoom meeting.
Yes, people might then ask, so why is TechSoup using Slack? The reality is we've been using Slack for what, 3 or 4 years now. And so our tech stack is what it is. We don't feel the immediate need to change our technology stack. That would certainly create a lot of work for us internally. So yeah, but I think maybe if we were starting from scratch, maybe we'd look at different solutions. But I'm not saying that I still love Slack. I think Slack's fantastic. I think Zoom is fantastic. I just think if any organization is looking for an immediate short-term solution that's going to provide them chat and video functionality out of the box, obviously Teams is certainly a solution worth looking at.
Now, building onto that differences with, so is there also some significant differences between Teams and Zoom?
I'll be honest, once again, it's really hard for us to answer because our technology stack has been Slack and Zoom for some time. I can't say enough about Zoom. It is amazing. It's been the best, having been a remote work for so long. When we finally converted over to Zoom, we were just amazed at the functionality. I think the main thing that I really love is that adaptive bandwidth feature, where if just one user is having a problem with their bandwidth, it doesn't affect the whole call. It's really easy to bring external people into the call, people that aren't part of your organization. So it's really easy to have third-party calls. Zoom also has dial-in numbers. So let's just say you may be having an internet problem. You actually dial in on a traditional phone into that same instance. Ellen, does Microsoft Teams have that same functionality where people can actually dial in on a traditional phone as well?
That is correct. It's actually on the same thing with Skype. Or with Skype, you can dial in. So they adopted those features as well when Microsoft migrated to Microsoft Teams. So it has that option.
I wish we at TechSoup were actually in a better position and being experts on these different tools, but we're still learning and adjusting ourselves. Even me myself, this is actually the first co-presenting webinar I've ever done before, so we're all adapting to new times.
Another note here about Zoom. So Zoom meetings are limited to 40 minutes in free edition. So what are the advantages of it over Google and what Google has Hangouts and Microsoft has Teams? Quick note here, again, that is if you're referring to just the free edition of Zoom, free personal edition. So I myself have my own free edition of Zoom, and they've actually lifted that 40-minute limit. From what I know, they've already lifted that, at least for the time being, during COVID. I personally had like an hour and a half call with my friends using my own personal Zoom account just over the weekend, just catching up. But what are its advantages over Hangouts and Teams? I'd say for me, it's really where you're most comfortable in. We're not kind of like claiming one is the best among the three. Each of our teams have their own unique needs, also your own unique setups. Take for example, for us, we're primarily living in a Google, we're using both, we're primarily living in the Google system. So we just prefer using Zoom over Hangouts. Hangouts, we barely use actually, but over Teams, we might include using Teams to diversify it in the future. Again, this is a question of preference. We're not highlighting one over the others. This is just to open you to as many options as possible.
Yeah, I think Zoom does have a few features that the others may not, especially with some of the remote desktop takeover tools. Look, I think it's going to be a relatively easy web search. If you type in Zoom versus Teams or Slack versus Teams, you will then get the pros and cons, and it's whether some of those pros and cons are important to your organization or not.
Moving from there, a question here is there an alternative payment method in using credit card or debit card? So this is more of an operational question, so I'll take this. So if you are referring to the TechSoup catalog, the alternative is bank transfer. So Western Union, we primarily use Western Union. There is the option to pay via bank transfer and or credit card through Western Union. For some countries, PayPal is available, so that is a far more efficient process. So yes, those two are available payment gateways as well. Moving from there, what is the difference between Zoom, Slack compared to Teams? I think we've covered this earlier. Okay, so here, do people need to download Zoom before they can join the meeting? I believe this depends on what device you're using. If you're using a desktop or a laptop, you can actually just use your browser, so no need to download anything. You have the option, but then it's not entirely required. If you are using your mobile phone, yes, downloading the app via your mobile is required. So again, it depends on what device you're coming in from. If it's a computer, not necessarily. If it's a phone, yes. Here's a question about eligibility deficit in Malaysia. So private limited company in Malaysia. So for me to give you, so is a private limited company in Malaysia eligible to access these solutions at a nonprofit rate? So for me to be able to give you a definitive answer, I would prefer that I see the documents first. Please communicate with me. Jed, send me your details, send your documents. We'll be happy to review that. Right now, I don't want to give you a definitive answer because we haven't checked your documents at the moment. But in TechSoup, we do have an eligibility guideline that requires certain nonprofits to be able to provide certain specific documents that verify their nonprofit status locally. So yeah, for me to be able to let you know, please contact me over email, share with me your documents, and I'll be able to let you know, advise you better.
And you can find a link to those requirements on the TechSoup Malaysia website. And only just recently, we expanded the criteria for charities and NGOs to register with TechSoup Malaysia. So.
Move forward. So what is a team like Heavy Data which needs backup or server, for example, finance data? In our case, we use QuickBooks. How can a team like us work remotely? Although we use cloud, particular Office 365, there is still a sense of a server for finance team. So yeah, how did they move from a very on-premise setup, particularly for their finance team, to a more cloud-based setup?
So I'll take this to it, but there are obviously some higher level cloud solutions. Microsoft has an Azure nonprofit charity offering. Jed, I feel like it'd be best to take up that specific question offline if we could understand the details a bit more. But yeah, Microsoft provides Azure, Amazon Web Services provides server credits. It may depend though on what sort of environment that QuickBooks needs to sit on, or what type of server.
Yep, cool. So yes, please contact us. We'll direct you to the Azure offer. I believe they offer about $3,500, $3,500 US per year. Credits, specific credits. Want to highlight that. So yeah, let's take that. Please contact us. We'll share more about the Azure details after. So here's another question about Skype and Skype for Business. There is some sync issues. So Ellen, I think, sorry to put you on the spot here. I believe Skype for Business is no longer available, right? They've transitioned entirely to Teams. Is my understanding correct?
For new accounts, no. But for the older accounts, I believe that Microsoft has provided them an option to keep both Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams, so that they could just have more time to migrate to Microsoft Teams. But yep, a quick answer for new accounts, that's no. That's a no.
Gotcha. And are there any tips you can share in terms of synchronizing, say, your personal Skype account to Skype for Business? Is that something that's doable?
Actually, no, or as at least as per my experience before, what we only recommend is just to manually adding the users to Office 365 manually for a nonprofit account or to a commercial account. So yep, quick answer. There's no way to straightly migrate from personal Skype to Skype for Business unless Skype for Business, yep, unless there's a third-party migration tool.
Gotcha. Thanks, Ellen. Moving from there, in terms of Zoom, what does it mean by having multiple hosts? That's a good question. So generally speaking, hosts are the people that are able to start calls, set up calls. So by having multiple hosts, it's a good example. Take for example, you have a team of 5. Maybe you want all of those 5 people to be able to start their own meetings. So then you're going to need 5 hosts. So that's essentially the basic definition of a host. These are the people with accounts that can start meetings. Okay, so here is a 2-part question. We currently have Office 365 Personal. How do we get one SharePoint, and how do we move from our personal accounts to a nonprofit Office 365 account?
Okay, let me answer that. So, quick answer: there's no way to straightly migrate you to Office 365 a nonprofit, or from Office 365 personal account to a nonprofit account. You'll have to sign up separately for your nonprofit account, And if you have a custom domain, or then we can add it to your Office 365 nonprofit account. So yeah, you have to sign up manually or separately for that.
Yeah, so just to generally, so the key thing you would need to do there is get a Office 365 nonprofit account. We can help you book a consultation if you need assistance. We can also offer setup assistance going from registration support to actually setting up that account. And SharePoint comes after that. Once you qualify for the nonprofit account, SharePoint is a part of the functionality of the full Office 365 for nonprofit suite. So yeah. Uh, Moving from there, so is TeamViewer recommended when it comes to dealing with mild to technical difficulties? So I have personally have not used TeamViewer before. Simon, Ellen, what are your thoughts on TeamViewer?
I was able to use it before, and I could say that it's a pretty good remote access tool as per my perspective.
I actually heard somewhere as well, and I think you might have provided the link in the deck, Jed, but I think LogMeIn is actually also providing a special offer in relation to the COVID-19. So offering free versions of LogMeIn, which is a similar product, as I understand, Ellen. So if people, once again, people looking for a short-term solution to remote desktop tools, there's another one to think about.
Yeah. So yeah, as I believe they do offer free. I don't know if it's free trial version, but I'm not sure if we offer that through TechSoup. But the most feature that I like about TeamViewer is that there is what we call unattended access. So as long as the computer is turned on, and the user or the end user doesn't need to be present. So that's just the main feature that I can think of when we say TeamViewer.
Cool. Uh, Another question, any learning management apps or tools available under TechSoup? So I don't know in particular, this is a quick answer is no, nothing in particular about learning management. But yeah, sorry, it's a quick answer no. But we are looking into it. We're always looking into adding additional donors. Do you, in terms of following through after this webinar, while this is particularly focused on us helping them manage their own teams, what are our thoughts on planning a webinar that can enable them to work remotely with beneficiaries, for example? So is this something in the books? Definitely yes. Nothing is off limits at the moment. We can't commit to when, but please, if this is something that's very relevant to you, we are going to look into this. And this might also be just, we can also just take this spin in terms of integrating it with other topics. Say, for example, teams. How can you use teams to collaborate with beneficiaries rather than your team? So, Ellen, Simon, would you like to add into that?
We're very much relying on your feedback here on what you actually desire, whether you need more training content on certain products or a particular topic or whatever that may be. A lot of our corporate partners, like the likes of Microsoft, Google, are actually reaching out to us quite a bit and asking us the same question. You know, how can we help charities and NGOs? So yeah, I implore you to, even this particular webinar itself, provide us some feedback. If you have some ideas on other topics that we should be focusing on, end of the day, TechSoup is also a charity and NGO, and we exist to assist other charities and NGOs when it comes to technology. That is our mission. So yeah, please give us feedback, give us ideas of what you think we should be doing, and we'll respond as quickly as we can.
Yep. Just in terms of an example to this. So in terms of working with beneficiaries, you've heard a lot of churches utilize video hosting, video conferencing solutions to actually convert their typical services to, online services. These are particular to churches. If that's something if that's a particular model that you can explore with your beneficiaries, that might be a good idea to start with. Question. So does team in Zoom allow for more than one participant? Yes, very much so, yes. So just yesterday, we've had a Teams meeting where there was about, I think, 6 or 7 of us. We've even had Zoom meetings with the entire team that's more than like about 30 to 40 people at a time. So just to quickly answer, I can specifically answer in terms of Zoom. Zoom Pro can host up to 100 people at a time. while Zoom Business can host up to 300 participants at a time. So there we go. So just going back to that, Ellen, do you happen to know at the top of your head what is the maximum limit for Teams?
That's 250 as well, to up to 250
250.
attendees. Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
Correct.
Okay. New to TechSoup. What are the benefits of Microsoft Office Standard and how long is the validity? So gonna answer that backwards. Validity, if you access the Microsoft Standard 2019 license through TechSoup, it is actually perpetual, meaning it doesn't expire. It will outlast the device, if that's worth mentioning. Granted, though, that they don't put Office 2019 at end of life, which is Microsoft's call, but it is the license itself is perpetual. It doesn't expire. May I know the benefits? So the benefits of Office Standard 2019 is that it provides you with all the essential productivity apps, OneNote, Outlook, and the three core apps as well, Word, Office, and Excel. So really, it provides you with the latest version of Office, gives you all the functionalities that you're going to need to work effectively. Does Teams meeting support more than 500 users? Ellen has mentioned earlier, it goes up to 250, but I think there is a broadcast module. Ellen, is that correct? There is a broadcast function with with Teams that allows you to host larger one-way communications such as this, like a webinar. I've seen
That
that
is
for the
actually
individual.
that
Yep,
is
sorry.
actually correct, and there's another additional tool that you will be installing. So that would be, if I'm not mistaken, it's Microsoft Teams streaming tool. So that's it.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
So have you checked 8x8 or Jitsi? These are open source alternatives. We haven't, but thank you for the suggestion. We'll look into it. Thank you. So that's Jitsi or 8x8. It's alternatives, free alternatives to Zoom. Can I use Zoom for a small business? So that's a good question, but I think this is a question of eligibility. If you are a small business and you would like to access Zoom for nonprofits, it's a matter of whether you meet the requirements and eligibility guidelines in the country you're in. You mentioned here you're from Indonesia, so please kindly check the eligibility guidelines at TechSoup Indonesia. If you qualify, please apply, and you will be able to access those licenses
Yeah.
under a nonprofit rate.
To clarify, TechSoup is almost purely focused on charities and NGOs. Of course, all of these solutions are available to small business corporations alike, but we are focused on charities and NGOs, and these particular tech companies often provide donated or heavily discounted versions of those products for the charity and NGO sector.
Cool. What are the useful features in Zoom Pro that are not in Zoom free version? So a quick note earlier was that traditionally Zoom free is limited to about 45 minutes per call. And that's something, while that is lifted throughout the time being because of the COVID response, as it reverts back to its traditional setup, then you will be limited to 45 minutes again. So that is one of the key features you may want to look into. So that's one of the key features why Pro is more advantageous. So for example, you need to host a 2-hour call. It's easier than in Pro. Other things you may want to note about that, guys?
I think recording is another thing that's only available in Pro. Recording of the actual calls and reporting. I know Pro has a lot more storage space as well to keep your recordings. I think that's the main ones I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I think we could just get back to that. Yeah, well, nothing at the top of our head comes up at the moment other than the duration, but we'll definitely get back to you over email on that. Our question here, following up on an application just 3 days ago. Yes, thank you for bringing this up. Send me whatever details you've sent before, your organization name, the email you've used during registration. I can personally follow up on that. Again, that's jed@techsoup.org. Contact me, and I'm usually diligent with my email, I promise. So hopefully I can let you know as soon as possible.
And if you still don't have a response in 24 hours, reach out to me.
Yes, and Simon will call me out. Do you offer free training to nonprofits? Yes, but through the through courses. So we mentioned earlier that we do have a course portal, TechSoup courses. Please check that out. The link is in the deck. We'll be sharing this deck as soon as possible. You can access that for free courses. Some of the free courses are actually what we call the Microsoft Learning Center, is it? It provides you with basic training on essentially using Word, Excel, and PowerPoint at a far more efficient rate. Again, there's also a free Teams course at the moment there that you can access. Please check that out. It has a wealth of training, not only product specific, but also in terms at a programmatic level, say improving your marketing through social media, improving your marketing through ads, and so on. So there's a lot of learning content to get there. Here's a question. Can you upgrade from an old Google admin to a basic G Suite for NGO? I'm not entirely sure at the top of my head at the moment, but I'll need to get back to you on this. I think there is a specific process for this. So I will get back to you with the link. How much does DocuSign work? How much does one small organization need? DocuSign, from the top of my head, I believe is about $89 or $84. In terms of DocuSign, this depends on how you manage your relevant documents, the things that you need signed. For example, if it's only HR, then I would recommend just get the standard and give that to HR, really. It's how...
Yeah. Even within TechSoup, who, globally we have like 200 to 250 staff, I think there'd only be a handful that would actually have a license, and those would normally be those that are working in human resourcing, those that might be working in finance or doing contracts or legal. For a small organization, you might just need the most senior leader to have a copy, because they may be responsible for things like contracts themselves. So you certainly wouldn't need a license for every member of your staff.
Another question here is how much, I believe this is referring to Office 365, how much would Office 365 cost for a team of 5? Now, this is really a question based on the functionality that you need. Well, there are free Office 365 solutions, E1, and that's primarily a cloud suite of apps. There are no on-premise licenses included. It can go as cheap as free, but then again, this depends on what kind of functions you need. My best recommendation is book a consultation. Ellen and I would be happy to talk to you about this, and we'd like to nail down the cheapest license that can meet your requirements. And we'll be providing with you some suggestions on what kind of options you can, what kind of options are available. So again, it can go as cheap as free, but then I believe the most expensive one is $15, but that's not $15 per user per month, which is E5, but that is rarely recommended. The other midway there is there are licenses that include on-premise licenses that are about $3 per user per month and $4 per user per month. But then again, if we can go for free, if that is sufficient, then let's stick with free, to be honest.
The key thing is there, please book a consultation, because then we can understand your requirements and needs a bit more and then provide a better recommendation. With Office 365, there can be a dithering array of different options that you can select. But of course, we have someone on our team like Ellen, who's had 4 or 5 years experience navigating all of the different options. Yeah.
Okay, so question here: how can we share Zoom accounts rather than creating multiple hosts? This was actually a question raised to me just yesterday. The unfortunate answer here is that Zoom has it in their user agreement that you cannot share a specific host account across multiple individuals. I can send a link to verify that. I'm not just making this up here. That is unfortunate in their user agreement. And there is a specific article in Zoom support that does talk to that. So, but then again, you don't need to create the idea here is that if you only need certain people to start meetings, then maybe just focus on them to lower the costs, to be honest. And also, if you don't necessarily need Zoom, there are alternatives that are built into free apps such as Teams and Hangouts. Those are, again, entirely for free. If you want to explore them as alternatives, please do so, really.
And also, a quick additional information about Zoom. If I'm not mistaken, Jed, I believe that the only users who need a license are the organizers, right?
Yep. So if,
Okay.
say, for example, only your manager needs to start meetings, then maybe you just need one or two. Actually, no, there's a minimum of 2 hosts required
Yep.
at the minimum for pro. So yeah, if you can stick with that, then that's okay, really. Again, explore ways where you can mix and match these solutions. We are not championing one over among the other. We're just offering you these broad selection, and we'll talk to us if you need help in terms of figuring out which one best fits your needs. Question here, are you currently part of the Philippine Council for Association Executives? Not at the moment, but if you can bridge us to them, we'd be happy to have a chat. Could you please elaborate about the streaming functionality of Teams? Ellen, do you know more about this at the top of your head?
I'm not actually particular in regards to the topics of the training, but basically, what we'll include is on how you will add users, how you will create channels, you will create groups, and as well as the audio conferencing and the video conferencing. But the actual topic, I'm not yet aware of it.
I'll just look for relevant content to help you learn more
Yeah.
about the
Okay.
streaming. From what I've read, the individual's free version can get you up to, I think, about 1,000 or more. Was it 1,000 or 10,000? I can't remember if there was an extra zero there. But yeah, so some of the basic functionalities that, yep, reaching up to 1,000 at least participants. I'll look into learning content about that, and I'll share that in the deck before I send it out. The last question for the day. How do I transfer an Office 2019 volume license to a new? I had an old computer before the license was installed. For a certain reason, it broke down and they need to transfer that. I think the standard way to do it is you need to completely uninstall that license in the old computer. But if that is no longer an option, say for example, it got stolen, it was broken, it's no longer operational, my key solution is you communicate with Volume Licensing Service Center. I can share with you the contact details of that team. Unfortunately, we don't have any additional support on that because the licenses themselves are provided and are managed by a separate team in Microsoft called VLSC. So the most that I can share is that it has to be uninstalled before you can actually transfer it to a new computer. But if that old computer is no longer operational, I believe please communicate with VLSC to get better assistance. And that is the last question. Guys, if there are any follow-up questions, please send them through.
Yeah, and I really want to focus on that. If you have any questions whatsoever, if you had any problems accessing the offers that we've talked about today, please contact our customer service email that you see on the slide now. I'll say again, we at TechSoup are here to support you. That's what we exist for. But if you want support, we need to know what you need. So please reach out to us. Yeah, and I suppose on that note, stay safe, keep clean. We'll get through this together. It's challenging times for all of us. All my time is working in the charity and NGO sector, some 15 years. I've never been through anything like this. But some of the things we talked about today, though, I think charities and NGOs implementing some of these tools, even though now a lot of us have been forced to do so. I think when the dust settles and we go back to our workplaces, you'll find that a lot of these tools are going to help ongoingly in your operations, in regards to your efficiency, and in regards to the communities that you serve. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll try to send the content as soon as possible. Again, thanks, and have a lovely day ahead of you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.